Metal screamed as the fuselage tore open, and Captain Elena Rostova snapped awake, hanging upside down in a burning helicopter swallowed by a snowstorm. Fire chewed through the cockpit. Wind knifed her lungs. She cut herself free and dragged Major Jack Thorne into the blizzard, only for him to jolt alive, shove her back, and level a pistol at her face. "Who the hell are you? Stay away!" Enemy voices echoed up the ridge, boots crunching through snow, closing fast. Her visor flashed, minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit and dropping. Then she saw the missing case on Thorne's harness and remembered the truth he had forgotten. He carried the activation codes for a tactical nuclear device. Snow ate the world in every direction. Thick, swirling, disorienting, an avalanche frozen mid-collapse. Captain Elena Rostova pushed her weight under Major Jack Thorne's arm, dragging him away from the burning skeleton of their helicopter. The flames cracked and roared, fighting the storm, refusing to die even as the wind screamed against the torn fuselage. Thorne stumbled, boots carving erratic lines into the snow. His breath rattled in shallow bursts, fog spilling from his lips in fast, frightened puffs. His pupils were blown wide, reflecting Elena's silhouette like she was a stranger. Maybe she was. "Easy, Major. Keep your weight on me," she said, shifting her stance to support him. He recoiled as if stung. "Don't touch me." It wasn't the tone of a commander. It was the tone of a man dragged out of a nightmare into another. Elena steadied her voice. "We were hit by a man-pads. You're injured. I need to check your head." "No," he snapped. "No one checks my head. No one touches me. You hear me?" His hand twitched toward his holster, a movement too fast for a man supposedly concussed. Elena raised her hands. "All right, keeping distance." The wind howled, shoving them both sideways. Snow slapped her cheeks like gravel. Her kneecap pulsed where she'd hit the dashboard during the crash. Every step radiated through her leg with electric pain. She'd felt pain like this before. She knew she could function on it, for now. "Major," she tried again, "I need to get you to cover before you freeze to—" A crack, sharp, crisp, unmistakable, rolled across the mountainside. A rifle shot, close. She dropped instantly, dragging Thorne down with her. A bullet hissed overhead, then another. They were being hunted already. Thorne thrashed beneath her, wild, panicked. "Get off me! I don't know you!" "I'm keeping you alive," Elena hissed, tightening her hold. "Stay down!" His fist connected with her ribs, pure muscle memory, not conscious action. She grunted, absorbing the impact, and forced him flat against the snow. Boots crunched in the distance. Multiple, maybe a squad. "Major, listen to me," she whispered urgently. "We need to move, now." But his eyes saw nothing recognizable. Not her, not friend, not mission, just fear. And fear makes men unpredictable. She released him, hands up. "Look at me. I'm Captain Elena Rostova, U.S. Air Force Pararescue. You know me. You approved my assignment last week." Thorne blinked. Confusion, flickers of pain, and then emptiness. "I don't remember," he breathed. She swallowed hard. Time to triage. Memory loss consistent with TBI. Aggression response heightened. Pupillary delay. Unstable gait. The symptoms lined up too neatly, but the questions didn't. Why was he reacting like she was the enemy? Why the paranoia? Why the fear? Elena scanned the ridge. Shadows moved behind the swirl of snow, silhouettes in formation. Whoever they were closing the distance fast. She grabbed Thorne's hand and slapped it to her shoulder harness. "Hold on. You don't have to trust me. Just follow me." To her surprise, he did. They moved. The first rounds struck the snow behind them. They ducked into the jagged mouth of a rocky overhang, just wide enough to shield them from line of sight. Elena pressed her back to the stone, chest heaving, breath forming heavy clouds. The cold gnawed at her bones with teeth of iron. Thorne leaned on the opposite wall, one hand gripping the rock to stay steady. The other clutched at his temple. "Talk to me, Major," Elena said, crouching to inspect him. "Do you know your name?" He hesitated, long enough to worry her. "Jack," he said finally. "Major Jack Thorne." "Good. Name recognition intact. Identity mostly intact. But memory? What's the last thing you remember?" He winced. "There was a briefing, somewhere dark. I was sitting with someone, a younger officer. Could have been you. Could have been someone else." Then, his eyes darkened. Someone was screaming. A concussion wouldn't cause fragmented memory like that, but trauma might, or betrayal. "Elena," he said suddenly, testing the name on his tongue. "That's you?" "Yes." "How long have you been my partner, handler, protector?" The words came jagged, uncertain. "You're my team lead. I'm assigned to get you in and out safely." "And the mission?" She studied him. If he truly didn't remember, telling him the details carried risk, but withholding might destroy trust before it even formed. "You're the only one who can unlock the reconnaissance module from the down platform," she said carefully. "It contains intel too sensitive to fall into enemy hands." His brows tightened. "And the codes?" Elena froze. He didn't remember, but he remembered enough to ask the right question. Her hand drifted unconsciously to the empty clip point on his harness, the place where the hardened case should have been strapped. The case wasn't there, and she hadn't removed it. "Major, where did you put the code case?" He searched her face, confusion bleak and real. "What code case?" Her stomach dropped. The enemy squad's boots scraped closer, echoing off the ridge like approaching thunder. She crouched lower. "We need to move deeper into cover, then we look for the case." "We?" His voice trembled. "How do I know you're not one of them?" She locked eyes with him. "Because if I were, you'd already be dead." Thorne stared, breath shallow, uncertainty battling instinct. For a second she wasn't sure he would follow. Then he nodded. Not trust, not recognition, survival. They moved deeper into the cave. Halfway in, Thorne stumbled. Elena caught him by the vest, and something about the weight felt wrong, lighter than it should. She guided him down and began scanning his gear. "Don't touch me," he warned, voice dangerously low. "I'm checking inventory," she answered dryly. "Not your dignity." She unclipped the side pouch. Empty. The chest rig, scorched. The left harness strap, torn. Then she froze. A smear of blood, dark, dried, ran across the interior buckle. Not his blood, a different type. Darker, thicker, coagulated. And inside the cockpit earlier, she'd seen the co-pilot's wound. Wrong angle, wrong depth. Not caused by the crash, caused by a bullet, fired from inside the aircraft. Her pulse thudded. "Major," she said slowly, "were you in a fight before we crashed?" His expression went blank. "I don't know." She reached into his torn side pouch. Her fingers brushed something stiff. A glove. Not military issue. Wrong fabric, rougher, and smeared with blood not matching Thorne's type. She stared at it. Someone else had been on the aircraft. Someone not in the flight manifest. Someone who bled and didn't make it to the ground. She looked up at Thorne. He looked terrified. "Elena, what aren't you telling me?" Her grip tightened on the glove. "I don't know yet," she said, "but something went very wrong on that helicopter." They pushed deeper into the cave system, following a narrow path carved by centuries of ice. Elena's headlamp illuminated fractured stone, frost-silvered walls, and the rhythmic drip of meltwater. The air thinned as they moved, colder and sharper. Every breath felt like inhaling needles. Thorne trailed behind, one hand on the rock to steady himself. The concussion symptoms were worsening. He staggered once, almost falling. Elena moved to catch him, but he shoved her away. "Don't," he snarled. "I don't need your help." His pride was intact, at least. Elena kept her tone calm. "You took a hard hit, Major. Your brain needs oxygen. Slow, deep breaths." "My brain is fine." "It isn't." He glared, but obeyed. They reached a widening chamber where the stone ceiling arched high overhead. Weak daylight filtered in through a slit in the rock. Elena set Thorne down against the wall. "Stay put," she said. "I'm scanning for comms bounce. Maybe we'll get a signal." She stepped toward the fissure. Her HUD flickered as she changed visor modes, searching for any electromagnetic reflection. Static hissed. Then, a voice. "Enix protocol. Verify asset containment. Copy." Her blood ran cold. That wasn't American. The encryption wasn't NATO. And the phrase, Phoenix Protocol. She'd only heard it twice in her career, whispered in classified training sessions. A directive authorizing termination of compromised U.S. personnel carrying strategic intelligence. Her heart hammered. "Major," she whispered, "we need to leave. Now." Thorne tensed. "Why? Who was that?" "I don't know," she lied. He studied her too long. Then, "Captain," he said quietly, "if there's something you're not telling me, now's the time." Elena exhaled, breath shaking. "I think someone wanted you dead before we hit the ground." Silence. Thorne's jaw flexed, slowly, terrifyingly. "And you?" he asked. "Did you?" She stepped closer, lowering herself to eye level. "If I wanted you dead," she said carefully, "I wouldn't be freezing my ass off trying to save you." He stared at her. Then his expression cracked, not with trust, but with exhaustion. "I don't remember anything," he whispered. "Not the briefing, not the mission, not you." "We'll get your memory back," Elena said. "But right now, we move." Bootsteps echoed from the cave mouth. Not one set, many. They'd been followed. Elena grabbed Thorne's arm, pulling him upright. "On your feet, Major." His eyes sharpened, soldier instincts kicking in. "Which way?" She pointed deeper into the dark. "Only one way left." They ran. Behind them, the enemy voices grew louder, and somewhere beneath the wind, the static repeated. "Phoenix Protocol active. Asset compromised." The words chased them into the black. The cave narrowed again, forcing Elena to lead sideways with her shoulder against the stone. Her visor dimmed, adjusting to the near pitch black. The beam of her headlamp cut through suspended frost crystals, each one glinting like powdered glass. Thorne's breathing echoed behind her, ragged but steady, his boots scraping the ice with uneven rhythm. She had heard that rhythm before. Not his, but another mentor's. Another mission. Another night when she'd ignored her gut and trusted the wrong man. A night she'd sworn never to repeat. She tightened her grip on her rifle. The cold was getting into her knuckles, stiffening them, slowing reaction time. Couldn't afford that. They reached a fork in the cavern. One path veered upward into a tight chute. The other sloped deeper, swallowed by shadow. Elena crouched, brushing gloved fingers along the ground. Footprints, distorted by melting snow, but recognizable. Someone had moved through here recently. More than one someone. Her stomach tightened. "Major," she whispered, "you seeing this?" Thorne crouched beside her, studying the impressions. His pupils narrowed, instinct flickering behind the concussion haze. "Not ours." "No," she rose, scanning ahead. "We're not the only ones who made it into this cave network." "Enemy patrol?" "Could be." Her voice dropped lower. Could also be whoever was bleeding on your harness. Thorne froze. What did you say? She turned, lowering her lamp toward the glove she'd tucked into her vest. The fabric was torn, embedded with grit and streaked with dried blood. She held it out. This was wedged into your gear. Not from our crew, not from the flight manifest. He stared at the glove as if it were radioactive. So someone else was on the helicopter. Or got on board after we departed, she said. Either way, they fought you. How do you know that? The blood on this glove didn't come from the pilots. Wrong type, wrong texture. And the bruise patterns on your wrist. Someone tried to restrain you. Thorne drew back slowly, as if the cave itself shifted around him. And I don't remember any of it. That's the problem. Her voice softened despite her best effort. Your memory loss makes you vulnerable. We don't know who attacked you, or why. Maybe they wanted the codes. Maybe they wanted you dead. Maybe both. And maybe, she didn't add, they succeeded. He swallowed, throat working. What if it was me? What? What if I fought them because I was the threat? His voice trembled. What if the reason I don't remember is because I wasn't supposed to? She stepped closer, meeting his eyes. If you were compromised, you wouldn't be fighting me. You wouldn't be asking these questions. You'd have killed me already. Thorne didn't argue. Elena, he said quietly, if someone boarded that helicopter, it means they knew our route. They knew our timing. That means inside job, she finished. Yeah, I've been thinking the same thing. A distant echo, stone shifting maybe, or footsteps. Elena snapped her attention to the right corridor. We keep moving, she whispered. Thorne nodded, but his hand drifted unconsciously to the empty spot on his harness where the code case should have been. They moved deeper into the dark. The cold hit harder as they descended. Air thinned, stinging lungs. Frost formed on Elena's eyelashes, blurring her vision. Her knee throbbed with every uneven step, flashing pain up her thigh. She grit her teeth, forcing her pace steady. Thorne noticed. Of course he did. You're limping, he muttered. I'm walking. That's not what I asked. Not your concern. It is if you slow us down, he snapped. She stopped dead, turning on him. You want to take point? Be my guest. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The cave swallowed the silence between them, heavy and cold. Elena moved on. The tunnel widened again, ribs of ancient stone arching overhead. Icicles hung from the ceiling like glass fangs. She swept her light across the cavern floor. Blood. A thin smear leading toward a collapsed section of rock. Elena signaled for Thorne to hold position and approach cautiously. The blood trail led to a body, half buried under ice. Male, mid-40s, tactical clothing with no insignia. His throat was cut, and judging by the spray pattern, he'd died fast. She crouched, rolling his shoulder to expose the chest rig. No U.S. markings. No enemy markings either. Thorne approached, jaw clenched. You've seen this before? Yes, she said quietly. Black market contractors. Ghost soldiers. The kind nobody admits hiring. What the hell were they doing on our bird? She didn't answer. Thorne knelt stiffly, examining the corpse. His fingers brushed the man's shoulder holster. Empty. The weapon had been removed. Elena, he said, voice tight, if this guy was after the codes and I fought him, why didn't he finish the job? Maybe he didn't get the chance. Or maybe, Thorne's eyes darkened, maybe someone else pulled him off me. She hadn't considered that. Someone else inside the helicopter who intervened. Someone who didn't survive the crash. Her throat tightened. This changes nothing, she said. We need to keep moving before we become the next bodies in here. She stood, too fast. Her knee buckled. White, hot pains shot up her leg, and she caught the wall, gasping despite herself. Thorne grabbed her arm in a rare moment of clarity. Captain, sit. I'm fine. You're not. She wanted to shove him off. Pride demanded it. Training demanded it. But her leg trembled violently, refusing to bear weight. Thorne guided her down, surprising her with gentleness that didn't match the panic-fogged aggression from earlier. "Let me see," he said. "No, that's an order." She almost laughed. "You're not exactly command-ready, Major." But she relented, lifting the fabric of her uniform. A deep bruise blossomed across her kneecap, swelling visibly, rimmed with purple. Not broken, but close. Thorne exhaled sharply. "You should have told me." "Like you'd have listened?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached for the medic pack strapped to his own thigh, only to find it missing. His hand froze. "Elena, did I?" "You lost it on the slope earlier," she said. "It happens. I could have killed us." "Not yet." His eyes met hers. Something flickered between them. Fear, gratitude, guilt. He broke the moment first, standing abruptly. "Elena, why did they assign you to me?" he asked. "Really?" She hesitated. "My mentor died under my watch," she said finally. "I ignored my instincts when I shouldn't have. I vowed I'd never let another leader die because of me." Thorne stared at her for a long time. "Let's hope I'm worth the trouble," he said. For the first time since the crash, Elena almost smiled. Almost. They exited the caves into a narrow canyon carved by glaciers. The wind roared through the gap like a living thing, shoving them sideways. Snow whipped around them in violent sheets. Visibility was barely 5 feet. The entire mountain seemed to vibrate beneath their boots. Elena pulled her scarf tighter. "Stay close. Storm's building." "No kidding," Thorne muttered, shielding his eyes. Lightning, rare in winter storms, cracked across the sky, illuminating the canyon in white-blue glare. For a heartbeat, Elena saw everything: the towering cliffs, the swirling chaos, the trail carved by ancient ice, and movement, human silhouettes. High on the ridge to their right, she reacted instantly. "Down!" A round snapped past her ear, embedding into the stone. Thorne dropped beside her behind a fallen slab of ice. "They tracked us through the caves," he growled. "No," Elena said, peeking over the ice. "They were already ahead of us." "How the hell?" "Thermal," she said. "Storm cuts visibility, but not heat signatures." Thorne cursed under his breath. Elena fired 3 quick, suppressive shots. The wind swallowed the sound, but the muzzle flash revealed her position, and the return fire was immediate. A bullet grazed her shoulder, spinning her back against the rock. She clenched her teeth. "You hit?" Thorne asked. "Glanced off armor. Move." They sprinted toward a jutting outcrop. Elena's knee screamed with each step. Her breath burned cold. The wind tore at her stability, and halfway through the dash, her boot hit a patch of invisible ice. She slid, fast, toward a sheer drop. "Elena!" Thorne lunged, grabbing her vest. For a moment, the storm held both of them suspended over the abyss, their combined weight dragging dangerously close to the edge. "Pull!" she gasped. "I'm trying." Her boots scrabbled for purchase. Snow crumbled. The abyss yawned below, black and endless. Thorne braced, muscles straining, a raw shout ripping from his throat as he hauled her up and over the edge. They collapsed into the snow as a barrage of bullets shredded the ice where they'd been seconds earlier. Elena rolled onto her back, breath heaving. "You could have let me fall." "Thought about it," Thorne said, coughing, "but you still owe me a briefing." Despite the situation, she laughed once, a sharp surprise sound. Then the storm swallowed them again. They pushed forward, following the contour of the canyon. The enemy fire faded as the blizzard intensified. The wind became a solid force, battering them, bending them forward with every step. After nearly an hour of brutal fighting against the storm, they found shelter beneath a cluster of overhanging rocks. The space was barely wide enough for them to huddle inside, but it cut the wind in half. "You think we lost them?" Thorne asked. "For now." She checked her hood, battery dropping, temperature dangerously low. Her hands trembled, not just from cold, but from something else. Thorne was watching her. "You're calculating something," he said. "I'm trying to figure out why the enemy was ahead of us." "You already said thermal." "It's not just that." She wiped frost from her visor. "They were positioned to cut us off. They knew our escape path before we took it." Thorne inhaled sharply. "Meaning someone is feeding them our movements?" She nodded. His jaw hardened. "Someone from our side." The storm eased just enough for their radios to catch stray signals bouncing off the mountains. Static crackled through Elena's earpiece. She froze, adjusting her antenna manually. Thorne leaned in. "What is it?" "Shh." The static shaped itself into fragments. "Asset. Compromised. Phoenix. Confirm. Terminate." The same voice, the same protocol. Louder now. Clearer. Thorne stiffened. "That's not US." "Command." "No." Elena's mouth went dry. "But they're using our frequency bands." "Meaning they spoofed Overlord? Or replaced them?" Thorne's expression shifted slowly like ice fracturing. "Elena, I think someone tried to kill us before the missile hit." She stared at him. "Why would you say that?" He closed his eyes, forcing memory through pain. "I remember arguing with someone in our own unit. I told them I had evidence, something about missing weapons, diverted shipments, illegal transfers. They told me to drop it. Then someone grabbed me from behind." His breath hitched. "I think they injected me with something. Before the crash." Her pulse hammered. "Major," she whispered, "you were never meant to survive that helicopter." "And neither were you," he said quietly. Their radios hissed again. Then a new voice, deep, calm, chilling, cut through the static. "Team 2 in position. Visual confirmation from thermal drone. Targets are alive. Move in." Thorne's eyes widened. "That's not enemy soldiers," Elena finished. "That's American English." Clean, calm, agency tone. They looked at each other. At the same moment, realization struck. The storm parted for just a second, long enough for Elena to see them. Shapes descending the ridge on ropes. Uniforms too clean. Helmets with no insignia. Movement practiced. Lethal. A Black Ops kill team. Coming for them. "Elena," Thorne whispered, "they're not here to rescue us." "I know." "What do we do?" She chambered around and met his eyes. "We make them regret surviving that crash." The storm swallowed her words. The hunt had begun. The storm thickened until the world became a white wall, a living thing made of knives and breath. Elena shoved Thorne forward, boots sliding, shoulders pressed low. The air burned their lungs. The wind screamed like metal tearing itself apart. No time to think, only move. A shout cut through the storm above them, short, coded, unmistakably military. Another voice answered, clipped, calm, professional. "Operators." Thorne stumbled. Elena caught him by the vest. "Stay upright. Stay with me." His boots skidded over the slope. "I'm trying," he snapped. "Hard to walk when the world's upside down." "Concussion'll do that." "Not helping." "Wasn't trying to." She kept him moving. The slope wasn't a slope anymore. It was a frozen slide angled straight into the canyon's throat. Ice under snow. Death under everything. Another burst of radio chatter echoed down toward them. Elena didn't look back. She already knew what she'd see. Dark shapes cutting through the storm, moving in small teams, weapons up, scanning with thermal. "Left," she barked. They veered toward a jagged row of boulders sticking out of the ice like broken teeth. Thorne followed her in a half-stumble, half-dive. Rounds sliced overhead, thin, angry snaps that vanished into the wind. "Down!" Elena threw herself flat. Snow exploded around her as a short volley tore through the air. She pressed her cheek to the ice. breath slow. Thorne exhaled. They're good. They're very good. What's our plan? Don't die. Not much of a plan. It's kept me alive so far. The wind shifted suddenly, blowing snow sideways, thinning the white curtain for a brief moment. Elena saw the ridge above, 3 operators, spaced perfectly, moving like a single organism. One pointed. The muzzle of his rifle flashed. Elena rolled as another burst tore into the ice where she'd been. The slope cracked, shedding plates of brittle frost. "We drop!" she shouted. "What?" "No time!" She grabbed Thorne's arm and pushed them both over the lip of the next incline. The slope angled sharply downward. They slid fast, too fast. Thorne yelled something. Elena didn't hear it. The wind was too loud, the slope too steep. "Brace!" she called out. The ridge ended in a short ledge, then nothing. A void of swirling white. Elena slammed her boots sideways, carving friction, slowing enough to catch the ledge's edge with one knee. Pain flared. Thorne didn't stop in time. He shot past her, sliding toward the drop. "Elena!" She lunged, catching his vest strap. The momentum whipped her forward, nearly pulling her off the ledge. Pain tore through her knee like fire. She gritted her teeth and held. "Pull!" Thorne shouted, voice cracking. "I am pulling!" The storm screamed around them. Snow erased the horizon. The void below waited, patient and uncaring. Elena heaved. Her arms burned. Muscles trembled. Thorne clawed at the ice, boots digging in. Inch by inch, he climbed toward her. She dragged him the last bit, collapsing with him on the ledge as another volley shredded the slope above. They lay still, gasping. "That," Thorne said between breaths, "was not fun." "Shut up," Elena muttered. "Move." They crawled sideways along the ledge until the crack in the rock came into view, a narrow hollow carved by centuries of storms. Just enough space for 2 bodies. Elena shoved him inside. He didn't argue. She followed, gripping her rifle tightly. Footsteps echoed down from the slope above. Heavy, steady, predatory. A beam of red light scanned the ledge. Infrared. Elena pressed her back to the cold stone, barely breathing. Thorne's shoulder brushed hers, trembling but controlled. The operator above paused, then, "Negative reading, interference high." Another voice answered. "Storms masking them, push the next ridge." Footsteps moved on. Elena let her breath out slow. "We're not dead," Thorne whispered. "Not yet." "You always this optimistic?" "Only when I'm freezing." Thorne chuckled once, short, bitter. "Hell of a day. It's about to get worse." And she meant it. They crawled out of the hollow and began descending again. The mountain welcomed them like an executioner. The ridge sharpened, narrowing to a blade of stone. One misstep would send them into a white abyss. Elena's boots gripped the broken surface. Thorne walked close behind, one hand on the rock for balance. "Your knees failing," he said quietly. "I noticed. You're slowing. Still moving. You need rest." "Not happening." "Elena," she cut him off. "Major, I swear, if you argue with me while we're inches from dying—" "Fine," he muttered, "not arguing." "Good." The wind shifted, clearing a momentary window through the storm. Thorne grabbed her shoulder. "There." Elena followed his gaze. Tracks. Boot prints. Deep. Clean. Not theirs. "Recent," she whispered. "Ours?" "Less." They crouched beside the tracks. Uniform tread. Not hiking boots. Not locals. "Operators," Elena said. "They came through the caves too." "Or they set up before we crashed," Thorne swallowed. "They were waiting for us." Elena didn't argue. She didn't need to. They kept moving. Minutes passed in brutal silence. The storm thickened again. The sound of their breathing grew louder. Then Thorne spoke. "Why me, Elena?" "Not now." Why send a kill team? Why so much effort? She stopped, but didn't turn. Because you know something. What? You tell me. I don't remember. That's the problem. Finally, she faced him. Something you uncovered scared someone. Badly. Bad enough to drop a helicopter, stage a missile strike, send a black cell unit to finish the job. Thorne stared at her, breath sharp. But I don't remember what it was. You will. Or maybe I'm the reason we're out here, he said quietly. Maybe I caused this. Elena stepped closer, eyes hard. If you were compromised, I'd know. You wouldn't be fighting me. You wouldn't be asking questions. Thorne swallowed. Then why did I attack you after the crash? Because someone messed with your head before takeoff. Her words hung in the cold air. He looked away, jaw tight. They continued along the ridge until it bent around a frozen corner, revealing a basin below, flat, wide, carved by centuries of storms. Elena froze. Something felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. Major, she whispered, we're walking into a kill zone. Thorne nodded slowly. I feel it too. The basin's snow was too perfect, too smooth. No drift patterns, no randomness. Almost sculpted. Elena, Thorne said softly, we're being herded. Yeah, she said. Question is why? A sound drifted through the wind, a faint chirp. Radio interference. She raised her wrist receiver. Static. Then a voice. Survivors, respond. Echo 5, holding at grid. Thorne blinked. Friendly? No, Elena said. Too easy. The voice returned, but different this time. Familiar. Impossible. Elena, don't trust Overlord. They've flipped it. Listen to me. Her stomach dropped. It was her mentor's voice. Dead 5 years. She lowered her wrist slowly. That's not real, Thorne whispered. No, she said. It's bait. The basin grew colder around them. Crossing the basin felt like moving through a trap set by a clever predator. The snow muffled their steps. The wind quieted suddenly. Too suddenly. Elena crouched. Tripwire. Thorne leaned in. Where? Under the snow, she said. See the tension line? Claymore? Guaranteed. They stepped over carefully. More tripwires appeared as they moved. 5, 6. A whole perimeter. Layered. Intentional. Professionals, Thorne murmured. Yep. One misstep and the entire basin would go up. They reached the far end. The abandoned weather station loomed ahead, dark metal buried halfway into the ice. Why here? Thorne asked. Eliminate escape routes, Elena said. Control angles. Force us inside. For what? To finish us cleanly. A sharp crack echoed. Sniper. Down! Elena pushed Thorne flat. A round sliced the air above them. Snow exploded off a nearby drift. Where? Thorne shouted. High ridge. Elena pointed through the storm. A brief flicker of muzzle flash confirmed it. They sprinted. More rounds chased them. Elena's knee almost gave way. Thorne reached back, grabbing her vest, pulling her along. They reached the station door. Frozen shut. Hit it, she ordered. Thorne rammed his shoulder. Metal screamed. Hinges snapped. The door collapsed inward. They stumbled inside as another sniper round punched the frame. Elena slammed the door shut. They were inside the trap. The weather station's interior swallowed sound like a bunker. No echoes, just heavy silence and frost-coated walls. Elena swept her rifle across the dark. Rusted consoles, collapsed shelves, ice creeping over metal. Old Soviet equipment, dead for decades. Thorne moved behind her, pipe in hand. Feels wrong. It is wrong. Think they know we're inside? No, she said. They assume we're inside. How comforting. A faint hum drew her attention. She turned her light. A battery pack. Modern. U.S. military. Still warm. Thorne whispered, "Someone set up here." Recently. Elena crouched. The pack fed into a small amplifier. Not improvised, precise. Someone had used the station to boost a signal through the storm. The amplifier blinked. Faint static filled her radio. Then a voice, flat, calm, synthetic, cut through. "Rostova, Thorne, hold position. Extraction inbound." Thorne scoffed. "They're not even trying." "No," Elena said. "They think you're confused enough to believe it." "Am I?" "If you were, you'd be dead already." He didn't argue. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying sharp clicks, carabiners on rope, boots hitting metal, low, controlled breathing. "They're here," Elena whispered. "How many?" "Enough." She pulled Thorne back from the doorway and into the shadows behind a collapsed cabinet. "Remember," she said, "thermal won't help them once they're inside. Walls block heat." Thorne lifted the pipe. "Good. Levels the field." The latch on the front door trembled. A gloved hand tried the handle. Quiet orders followed. "Stack position. Breach on my mark." Elena chambered around and steadied her breath. The door blew inward. Snow blasted through the room. The first operator stepped through, crouched, rifle up, perfect form. Elena fired once, center mass. He flew back through the door, swallowed by the storm. A second operator entered instantly, sweeping right. Elena rolled left, firing twice. His rounds chewed the console where her head had been. Her shots hit his shoulder, twisting him sideways. Thorne slammed the pipe across his knee. The operator collapsed. Thorne hit him again, dropping him. A third operator slipped in low, too fast, cutting the angle. Elena barely caught the movement. She fired, grazing his helmet. He surged toward her. She ducked. His fist hit the metal wall behind her, sending flakes of rust into the air. She drove her elbow into his ribs. He grunted, shock, not pain. Too much armor. She jammed her rifle under his chin and fired. Blood sprayed the ceiling. The room went still. For 5 seconds. Then, "Team 1 down," a voice hissed through a radio outside. "Initiate secondary breach." "Damn it," Thorne muttered. Elena grabbed the wrist tablet from one of the fallen operators. Locked. She pressed the corpse's hand against the scanner. It chirped. A mission brief opened. 3 lines. Brutal. Primary objective, terminate Major Jack Thorne. Secondary, eliminate Rostova if interfering. Recover code case. Destroy airframe. Thorne stared at the text, jaw clenched tight. "So that's it?" "Yeah," Elena said. "And remember, this is just one team. There may be more." A metallic whine cut through the storm. Elena stiffened. Drone. High-frequency rotor signature. Lightweight, probably thermal-equipped. "They're escalating," Thorne murmured. "No," Elena corrected, loading a new mag. "They're finishing." She killed the lights. "Rear hatch," she whispered. "We move before they triangulate." "And go where?" "Up," she said. "Always up." The rear hatch groaned open under Elena's boot. Cold slammed in like a wave. The wind howled, clawing at their faces. Snow cut sideways, sharp as glass. They slipped onto the narrow service path carved into the cliff. Elena hugged the wall. Thorne followed close. Above them, the drone's hum grew louder, then faded, then returned, circling, searching. "Eyes down," Elena said. "Thermal'll pick our faces first." Thorne lowered his head. "You think they'll drop the drone on us?" "They'll use it to guide the shooters." "Lucky us." The path bent sharply. Ice coated the railing. Elena tested each step. Her knee throbbed with every shift. Thorne steadied her once. She shrugged him off. A voice crackled in their radios, now impossibly clear. "Rostova! Thorne! This is Overlord. Cease movement." Elena froze. The voice was identical to the real overlord. Same cadence, same breathing pattern, same tone. But cold, empty, wrong. "Don't answer," she whispered. Thorne didn't move. "Rostova," the voice repeated. "Acknowledge." "Not overlord," Elena muttered. "Spoofed." "Or replaced," Thorne whispered back. The drone made another pass overhead. Snow blasted into their faces. Then the path narrowed to a knife edge. Elena scanned ahead. "The plateau is 50 meters up," she said. "We get there, we get sightlines. And risk getting shot. Better than getting funneled inside that station again." They climbed, hand over hand, boots carving steps into ice. The storm pushed hard, trying to peel them off the cliff. Halfway up, Elena slipped. Thorne caught her vest, pulling her back to the path. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine." "You almost fell." "Still didn't." Thorne chuckled once. "Stubborn. Still alive." The drone passed overhead again. Elena dove against the wall, covering her face. The radio crackled. "Targets reacquired. Engage on next pass." Thorne's breathing tightened. "They've got overwatch." "Sniper," Elena confirmed. "Probably two. One left ridge, one right." "Can we dodge?" "No, we outrun." They pushed upward faster. Elena's knee felt like fire. She ignored it. She had ignored worse. A sniper round cracked. A chunk of ice exploded near Thorne's head. "Close," he muttered. "Too close." They reached the final stretch. 20 meters. 15. 10. Another round. Elena shoved Thorne flat. The bullet whistled past their backs. "We're exposed," Thorne hissed. "Move!" They surged onto the plateau and froze. A black helicopter hovered at the far edge. Matte paint, no markings, doors open, gunners inside. Its spotlight snapped on. A blinding white beam blasted across the plateau, locking onto them like a predator's eye. Thorne whispered, "Elena, that's not ours." "I know." "Is that?" "Yes." An execution platform. The radio spoke again. Cold, calm, mechanical. "Terminate protocol. Confirmed." The helicopter's guns spun up. Elena didn't think. She reacted. "Run!" They sprinted across the plateau. Rounds tore into the stone, cutting lines of fire behind them. Thorne dodged left. Elena went right. Snow burst under every hit. The helicopter shifted, adjusting trajectory to track them. One gunner leaned out, stabilizing his aim. A second burst shredded the ground near Elena's boots. The blast wave knocked her sideways. She rolled, scraping her shoulder on exposed rock. Thorne shouted her name, but was drowned by gunfire. Elena pushed herself upright. The helicopter descended, angling for a kill shot. "Keep moving," she yelled. Thorne sprinted toward her. "We can't outrun it." "Not outrunning." "What then?" "Close the distance." She pointed to a rock spur that jutted upward. If they reached it, the helicopter's angle would worsen. Gunners needed clean lines. They dashed toward it. The helicopter dipped lower. A gunner shouted something, muzzle flash. A round clipped Elena's armor, spinning her. She hit the ground hard. Air blasted from her lungs. Thorne skidded beside her. "Elena!" "Go," she wheezed. "Rock spur." He grabbed her arm, dragging her upright. They stumbled together. Behind them, the helicopter swung harder. Its blades cut through the storm, kicking up whirlwinds. Elena reached the rock spur first. She pressed her back against it, panting. Thorne joined her. Rocks shielded them from direct fire. A temporary reprieve. The helicopter hovered, adjusting angles, frustrated. Thorne exhaled. "We need to drop it." "With what?" she asked. "Harsh language?" "Got anything explosive?" "Used it in the caves." He cursed. The helicopter shifted again. The spotlight flared. The pilot was trying to angle downward, to sweep them out. Elena scanned the ground. A crack. A fracture line in the stone, half hidden by snow. Her gut tightened. "Major, yeah? Shoot the crack." Thorne blinked. "What?" "Destabilize the rock. Force a rock slide." He stared. "That could take us with it. Or it could take the helicopter." He hesitated. "Elena, if you're wrong, I'm not." He took one look at her face and fired. The first round sparked against the stone, chipping off a few shards. The second created a small fracture. The third widened it. The helicopter descended again. "Harder!" Elena shouted. Thorne fired in a rapid rhythm. The crack deepened. The mountain groaned. A chunk of stone sheared off and fell. The helicopter jerked backward to avoid it. "Keep going!" Thorne fired until the magazine ran dry. The plateau trembled. A massive slab of rock tore loose, 20 tons of frozen stone, and crashed downward in an avalanche of ice and noise. The helicopter swerved. Too slow. The falling debris smashed into its rotor assembly. Metal screamed. Blades warped. The aircraft spun sideways, clipping the cliffside. A blast of fire erupted from the rear. The helicopter veered out of control. Thorne grabbed Elena. "Move!" They ran as the burning aircraft spun above them. Then gravity won. The helicopter dropped, straight toward them. "Elena!" Thorne shoved her. The plateau cracked. The edge gave way, and they fell. The fall wasn't graceful. It was violent, brutal. A tangle of limbs and snow and roaring air. Elena slammed into an icy slope, rolled, hit a rock, rolled again. Pain burst across her ribs. Her knee tore sideways, white fire down her leg. Thorne crashed somewhere beside her. A shout, a grunt, then silence. The burning helicopter smashed into the ridge above them, exploding in a spray of metal and fire. Shrapnel rained down. Elena shielded her head. Heat washed over her. Smoke filled the storm. She slid farther down the slope until she caught a jagged outcrop with her good leg. The sudden stop tore a scream from her throat. "Elena!" Thorne's voice. He was alive, somewhere below. She forced herself to move, inching down toward the sound. "Elena, here!" She spotted him lodged between two rocks, dazed but breathing. She slid to him. "You alive?" "Define alive." "Talking is alive." He wiped blood from his brow. "That was loud." "Yeah," she gasped. "We dropped a helicopter on ourselves." He laughed once. "Smart." "Not really." They both looked upward. Through the fire and debris and swirling snow, another sound emerged. A radio, crackling, then a voice. "Rostova, Thorne, this is Overlord." Elena froze. Not possible. The real Overlord should have been states away. Secure bunker, multiple authentication layers, impossible to spoof perfectly. But the voice matched, exactly, tone, cadence, breath. "Do not run," the voice said. "Extraction inbound." Thorne stared at her. "Elena, what if—" "It's not Overlord," she whispered. "How do you know?" She closed her eyes. "Because Overlord doesn't call twice." Thorne's breath hitched. Understanding fell across his face like shadow. The voice repeated, "Terminate protocol. Confirmed." The wind swallowed the last word. Elena gripped her rifle tighter. "Major," she whispered, "whatever's hunting us isn't pretending anymore." Thorne nodded grimly. "Then we stopped running." They gathered themselves on the frozen ridge, battered and half-broken, staring into a storm that hid enemies wearing their country's voice. The mountain howled. The hunt wasn't over. The mountain didn't stop shaking for a long time. Debris from the helicopter burned above them, small pieces hissing into the snow, larger pieces groaning as they slid down through the storm. Elena pressed her shoulder against the jagged rock, chest heaving. Thorne crouched beside her, forearm braced against the stone, breathing in short, sharp bursts. "You hurt?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "You?" "Yes." "Good. Means we're alive." Thorne huffed an exhausted laugh. "Barely." A chunk of twisted rotor smashed into the slope 10 meters above them, skidding past and vanishing into the abyss below. The wind carried sparks across the ridge like fireflies. Thorne wiped blood from his brow. "They'll assume we're dead." "For a minute," Elena said. "Not longer." He scanned the slope. "You sure the kill team survived that crash?" 100%. They weren't on that bird. That was just the execution unit. The ground teams are still out there. Thorne closed his eyes briefly. "Fantastic." "We move," Elena said. She forced herself upright. Her bad knee protested instantly. Fire through flesh. She grit her teeth and leaned on the rock. Thorne stepped closer. "Let me help." She didn't argue this time. He looped her arm around his shoulder, supporting her weight just enough to keep her moving. The slope downward was steep, broken by collapsed ice shelves and sharp outcroppings. Smoke followed the wind, staining the white landscape with gray streaks. The storm hadn't let up. If anything, it grew worse, gusts jerking at their bodies, forcing them low. "Where are we heading?" Thorne asked. "Away from the crash," she said. "They'll converge on that site, drones included." "And after that?" She didn't answer, partly because the wind was too loud, partly because she didn't know. They clawed their way toward a narrow chute between two rock faces. The opening looked like the throat of some frozen beast, tight, dark, merciless. Elena guided them into the gap, sliding down on her hip. Thorne followed behind. The space compressed around them, forcing them into a crawl. "You realize," Thorne said through clenched teeth, "this might be where we die." "Too small," Elena muttered. "I'd want something more cinematic." He snorted. "You're unbelievable." The chute sloped deeper. The light dimmed. Snow filtered down in spirals. After several minutes of scraping through ice and rock, the chute opened into a small hollow. They collapsed inside, gasping steam into the cold dark. Thorne leaned back, closing his eyes. "Elena, I remember more." Her head snapped toward him. "What?" "Fragments," he said. "Pieces, before the crash. Before all of this." "Go on." He exhaled, breath trembling. "I remember Merrick. He pulled me aside in the hangar. He told me the investigation was over. That command cleared everything." "And you didn't believe him?" "No," Thorne said. "I told him the numbers didn't make sense. Too many weapons disappearing, too many hands involved." He looked afraid. "Of you?" "Of what I found," Thorne said, "or who I'd show it to." Elena's pulse quickened. "So he boarded the helicopter." "He tried to talk me down," Thorne whispered. "Then something hit me. Hard. Needle? Syringe? I don't know. Everything went blurry. And then the crash. And then you dragged me out," he said, voice soft. "And I didn't remember any of it." Elena studied him. Even half broken, half frozen, he looked more alive than he had since she woke in the wreckage. "We're getting you out," she said. Thorne met her eyes. "Only if you walk with me. No more carrying dead weight." She nodded. "Deal." A voice crackled across the mountain, distant, amplified by the storm. "Team 3, sweep the lower ridges. Survivors may have escaped the blast." Thorne whispered. "They know." "They suspect," Elena said. "Difference matters." Footsteps echoed somewhere outside the hollow. Too close. Thorne tensed. Elena raised her rifle. The hunt had begun again. They crawled out of the hollow and into the storm again. Wind roared past them like a freight train. The slope below was a maze of jagged ice slabs and broken stone, illuminated by the faint glow of burning wreckage behind them. Elena pointed toward a narrow ridge leading to the east. "That way." Thorne nodded, shifting her weight to help her stand. They half walked, half slid down the slope. Her knee fought every step. His head still swam with concussion. The world around them felt hostile and alive. A flash of infrared swept the ridge behind them. Elena shoved Thorne into a depression beneath a jut of rock. The beam scanned across the snow, searching. "Drone," Thorne whispered. "No," Elena said. "Handheld thermal. Ground team." The beam moved past them, too close, but didn't catch. The wind distorted heat signatures just enough to save them. When the light disappeared, Elena exhaled. "Move now." They skirted the ridge, keeping low. Snow hammered their faces and filled every seam of their gear. Frost gathered on Thorne's eyelashes. He blinked hard. "You good?" She nodded stiffly. "Pain's familiar. It behaves. You're limping worse. Focus on moving." He didn't push the point, but she could feel his worry like heat radiating off him. The ridge ended at a vertical cliff carved by centuries of ice pressure. Thorne scanned the drop. "We aren't climbing that." "No." Elena pointed to a narrow, chimney-like crack running along the cliff face. "We're descending through that." Thorne stared. "That's insane." "Correct, but possible. You can't make that drop with your knee." She looked at him. "Then you spot me." He muttered something under his breath, but positioned himself at the top of the crack. Elena tested the edge. Ice crumbled under her glove. She lowered herself slowly, using handholds embedded into the stone. Sharp, irregular, but solid enough. Her bad leg trembled. She pressed her body close to the wall to reduce weight on it. Thorne leaned over the edge. "Slow, slow, Elena." "I'm not sprinting." Halfway down, her knee buckled. Her boot slipped. She fell a full meter before her good leg slammed into another ledge. Pain shot through her entire body. Thorne swore loudly. "Talk to me." "I'm fine," she gasped. "Liar!" "Keep spotting." She dropped lower. The crack widened near the bottom, offering a wide landing. She reached it with one final slide and collapsed into the snow. Thorne followed quickly, too quickly, slipping on the last step and landing beside her with a grunt. "You okay?" she asked, breath fogging the air. "I meant to do that," he muttered. She smirked despite everything. The storm eased slightly, revealing a valley ahead. Jagged peaks on both sides. A funnel. A natural corridor. Thorne stared at it. "We're being herded again." "Yeah," Elena said. "But if we predict it, we can use it." "How?" "We get ahead of them. Set the battlefield." Thorne raised an eyebrow. "Battlefield?" "We fight on our terms, not theirs." He looked at her for a long moment. "I trust you," he said finally. She stiffened. "Don't. Trust gets people killed." "I trust you anyway." She swallowed hard. They moved toward the valley. The real fight was coming. The valley narrowed like a funnel carved for war. Snow drifted in deep waves across the floor. Rocks jutted upward like spears. The wind funneled through the gap, split by stone into violent currents that masked sound and scent. Perfect place for an ambush. Elena scanned every ridge, every contour, every shadow. Thorne whispered, "See anything?" "Everything," she murmured. Her instincts screamed. Shapes moved along the far ridge, shadows cutting across the slope in patterns too controlled to be wildlife. Thorne spotted them too. "Team approaching." "Multiple teams," Elena corrected. "Left ridge, right ridge, center path." "How many?" "More than we can shoot." Thorne breathed out. "Great." "Still workable," she whispered. "How?" "We force them into each other's firing lines." He blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely." Elena pointed to a split in the valley floor, two narrow trenches emerging from the snow like claw marks. "We take the right trench," she said. "They'll take predictable positions. Left ridge will angle down. Right ridge will try to flank. Center team will push straight down the cut. And that helps us how? We push deeper into the trench. Force the flanking teams to angle inward. They'll cross arcs. Friendly fire becomes a threat. Thorne stared at her. That's brilliant. It's obvious. To you. She moved first. Thorne followed. Snow reached their knees inside the trench. The walls rose sharply on both sides, just high enough for concealment. The wind died here. Strange. Still. Wrong. Thorne whispered. You hear that? No. That's what worries me. Elena slowed. Her breath formed a dense cloud. Something felt off. Too quiet. Too controlled. Then she realized. They're not rushing, she whispered. Meaning what? They know we're here. They're setting something. Thorne's hand tightened on the pipe. Trap? Or... A voice interrupted her. Projected, amplified, familiar, too familiar. Jack. Thorne froze. The voice drifted through the valley. Calm, even warm. Jack, it's me. It's Merrick. Thorne's breath hitched. No, 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 no. Elena grabbed his vest. Don't listen. The voice continued, smooth as cut glass. Stand down, Jack. You're hurt. So is she. This needs to end cleanly. Something inside Thorne broke. Elena saw it in his face, a fracture of disbelief and memory. Merrick had been his friend, his second, his brother in arms. Jack, the voice said again, closer now. Come in. You're not the enemy. She is. Elena's grip tightened. No, she whispered. Don't let him in. But Thorne's eyes flickered. Recognition, confusion, betrayal, grief. The storm roared overhead. The valley held its breath. The enemy closed in. And Merrick spoke once more, calm and final. Jack, stand down, or I'll finish what I started. Merrick stepped into view through the storm like a ghost dragged out of memory. Dark figure, clean armor, weapon held low in a casual stance only an expert dared use. Snow hissed around him as if avoiding his boots. Thorne froze. His breath hitched, shallow and ragged. Elena felt the shift in him immediately. Muscles tightening, heartbeat accelerating, a tremor she hadn't seen since the crash. Jack, Merrick called again, voice steady. Stand down. Don't make this harder. Elena whispered, don't move. Don't speak. But Merrick kept talking, each word a scalpel slicing through the storm. You were hurt. Confused. She dragged you into something you don't understand. Thorne shook his head. Stop, just stop. You were supposed to be safe, Merrick continued, but she took you off route, made you suspicious, turned you against us. Elena stepped in front of Thorne, raising her rifle. That's enough. Merrick didn't look at her, didn't even acknowledge her presence. Jack, he said softly, I need you to come home. The storm went silent. The valley seemed to shrink, pulling all sound toward Merrick's voice. He's manipulating you, Elena whispered, but she wasn't sure Thorne heard her. Merrick took another step, boots crunching over snow. You're not yourself, and that's my fault. I failed you. I let you get too close to the truth. Thorne's jaw trembled. You tried to kill me. No, Merrick said gently. I tried to save you, but you wouldn't stop digging. Elena felt Thorne's weight shift. He wasn't stepping forward, but he wasn't stepping back either. Jack, she whispered urgently, listen to me, not him. Merrick's eyes sharpened. She's lying. She's been lying since the crash. She's using you. Jack, Merrick continued, this ends one way. Don't make me put you down. Elena raised her rifle higher. You'll try. Oh, Captain, Merrick said with a faint smile. I already did. He snapped his fingers. Shadows detached from the ridges. Operators moving fast, closing the circle. Snow kicked up under their boots. Weapons raised. Lines of fire forming. Elena swore under her breath. Jack, With me. Now. But Thorne's eyes were locked on Merrick. Haunted. Conflicted. Elena grabbed his vest. Look at me. He didn't. Jack! She shouted. He flinched. Finally, he looked at her. And she saw it. The war inside him. Trust. Betrayal. Memory half shattered. Loyalty split between past and present. Elena, he whispered. What if he's right? Then I'd already be dead, she said quietly. Something shifted in Thorne's expression. Not clarity, but doubt in Merrick. And that was enough. She pointed toward the deeper trench. We move. Now. Thorne nodded, barely, but he nodded. Elena turned to fire the first shot. Merrick fired before she could. A single round, precise, engineered to hit exactly where it hurt. Thorne staggered. Not from impact, Merrick hadn't shot him, but from the sound. The sound of a weapon he knew too well. The sound of betrayal made real. The storm froze around them for a moment too long. Elena pulled Thorne behind a rock outcrop as rounds hammered the trench walls. Snow exploded. Ice shattered. The ridges lit up with muzzle flashes. Stay down, Elena yelled. Thorne pressed a hand to his head, groaning. I remember something. Not now. It's important, he gasped. Elena, I saw him. On the helicopter. She stopped firing. What? Thorne's breath shook. He wasn't supposed to be on board. I confronted him. He said, not here, not like this. Then someone else grabbed me from behind. I turned. I saw Merrick's face. He didn't look surprised. He looked resigned. Elena felt her blood go cold. He was in on it, Thorne whispered. He wasn't forced. He wasn't threatened. He chose it. Elena's voice softened. Jack, listen to me. What else do you remember? Thorne shut his eyes tightly. Pain shook through his skull. He injected me. Something burned. My head, my vision, it went white. Then he said, you should have left it alone, brother. And then, nothing. The truth landed between them like a dead weight. Merrick hadn't been manipulated. He had been the one manipulating everyone else. Elena touched Thorne's shoulder. Jack, you're remembering. That's good. It doesn't feel good, he said through clenched teeth. It means your mind knows the truth. Thorne opened his eyes. They were clearer now, sharper, harder. I'm going to kill him, he said quietly. No, Elena said. You're going to live. That's your revenge. Rounds cracked above them again. Operators repositioning. Merrick moving down the ridge. We can't stay here, Thorne said. They'll pin us. They're trying to, Elena replied. How do we break it? Shift the battlefield. Thorne blinked. To where? She pointed to the narrow drop at the end of the trench. Down. He stared. That's suicide. It's a slope, steep but landable, if we hit it right. And if we don't? We die fast instead of slow. Thorne exhaled. Reasonable odds. Elena grabbed his vest. On my mark, she said. 3, 2, a bullet ripped into the snow between them. A voice followed. Jack, Merrick called from the ridge, steady as always. Don't run again. Elena didn't hesitate. 1, she shouted. She shoved Thorne over the edge, then jumped. They slid, fast, too fast. The slope beneath them was almost vertical, coated in layers of compressed ice. Elena dug her boots sideways, carving friction. Sparks of pain shot through her bad knee. Thorne skidded ahead, fighting for control. Snow roared around them. Ice clawed at their gloves. Wind screamed past like a living thing, desperate to rip them apart. Lean right, Elena shouted. Thorne obeyed instinctively. They shifted direction, avoiding a jagged outcrop that would have broken them in half. They slammed into a lower shelf, rolled, slid again. Momentum carried them through a cloud of powder. Elena gasped as cold air punched her lungs. Finally, mercifully, they hit a snowdrift deep enough to stop them. They lay there, gasping, staring up at the swirling sky. Thorne laughed weakly. "We didn't die." "Not yet," Elena wheezed. "Give it time." Above them, Merrick's voice echoed faintly, distorted by distance. "Jack, Elena, nowhere left to go." Elena sat up, wiping snow from her visor. "He's right about one thing," Thorne groaned. "What's that?" "There's only one way out." "Which is?" She pointed toward the far side of the valley, toward a dark cut between two massive boulders. "A pass, a choke point, a place to stand." "A last line," she said. He followed her gaze. "We hold there? We hold there. And if they overrun us?" She chambered around, steeled her breath, and met his eyes. "Then we make them earn every inch." Thorne nodded slowly. Something like fire returned to his face. "Let's finish this." They pushed to their feet, broken, bleeding, freezing, hunted, but alive. Together they limped toward the pass, the storm at their backs, and death closing from every direction. The final push had begun. The pass was narrower than Elena expected. Two massive boulders slanted inward, forming a jagged V where winds screamed through like a giant throat. Snow collected in uneven ridges on the ground. The terrain forced any attacker into a choke point barely wide enough for one or two operators at a time. Perfect. Elena scanned the flanks. High ridges, loose rock, thin ice sheets, all dangerous, all usable. Thorne leaned against one of the boulders, catching his breath. His face was drawn, pale from blood loss and concussion, but his eyes were steady now, clearer than they had been since the crash. "How many you think?" he murmured. "Enough to bury us." "Good. Hate small crowds." She smirked despite herself. "You ready?" "No," he said, "but I'm here." That was enough. Voices drifted across the valley, boots crunched snow, metal clicked. Operators taking positions. Elena raised her rifle, sighting down the narrow lane. "Remember," she said, "they'll test us first. Probe the lane, measure our fire. Don't overshoot." "Copy." The first silhouette appeared, a single operator crouched, scanning with a thermal device. Elena fired once. Clean shot, center mass. He fell without a sound. The valley froze. Then Merrick's voice cut through the wind. "Jack, Elena, you don't survive this. Not this line, not this mountain. Don't throw your lives away." Thorne gripped the pipe tighter. "He never shuts up." "Never did," Elena said. More shapes appeared at the edges of the ridges, not rushing, watching, calculating. They respected the choke point. Good operators always did. Elena whispered, "They're waiting for Merrick." "He likes to make an entrance." He did. Merrick stepped into view on the right ridge, rifle slung low. Snow haloed around him. Even at a distance, his posture radiated confidence, the kind earned after decades of surviving impossible fights. "Jack," he called, "last chance." Thorne shouted back, "Come take me yourself." Merrick paused, then smiled. "As you wish." He raised his hand. The kill teams moved. Elena fired first, dropping the lead operator. Thorne swung his pipe at the next man who squeezed through the choke point, smashing the barrel aside. Elena shot him before he could recover. A volley of rounds tore into the rocks above Elena's head. Shards sprayed her visor. More operators pushed in, tight formation, shields up, moving with precision. Too disciplined for panic, too experienced to rush mistakes. Elena shifted her fire, aiming low. Knee, knee, thigh. Collapse the line, break their advance. 3 men dropped. Others stepped over them. Thorne growled, grabbing one operator by the vest as he lunged through the pass. They crashed into the snow. Thorne rolled, used the man's own rifle strap to choke him unconscious, then grabbed the weapon. "Elena!" he shouted. She ducked as he fired past her, dropping another operator. The pass filled with bodies. Steam rose from wounds into the cold. The smell of gunpowder mixed with the metallic sting of blood. Still they came. Merrick's voice carried over the chaos. "Jack, stop this madness!" Thorne fired again. "Shut up!" "Elena!" Merrick called. "Walk away. Leave him. You weren't supposed to be part of this." Elena didn't dignify that with a reply. Her shoulder armor took a hit. She stumbled. Thorne dragged her back behind a rock. He checked her quickly. "You good?" Armor caught it. "Lucky." "No," she said. "Prepared." Footsteps thundered across the ridge, more operators sliding down toward them. Thorne clenched his jaw. "We need a shift." "I know." "We're losing the trench." "I know." "What now?" Elena took a breath and made a choice. "Now we take the fight to Merrick." They moved up the right flank, using blind spots between ridges. Elena's knee screamed with every step, but she didn't slow. Thorne stayed at her shoulder, rifle raised, pipe strapped across his back like a crude second weapon. They reached the slope beneath Merrick's position. He stood alone, weapon slung, posture relaxed, as if he were waiting for an old friend at a bar. Elena and Thorne climbed the last meters, boots crunching quietly. The wind tore at their jackets. Snow swirled around their legs. The world narrowed to a triangle of stone where Merrick stood. He didn't lift his weapon. He didn't flinch. He just looked at Thorne. "Jack," he said quietly, "you weren't supposed to live." Thorne's voice broke. "Why, Merrick?" "Because you were right," Merrick answered, "and being right was going to get you killed. I just accelerated the timeline." Elena snarled. "You injected him, tried to kill him in the air." "Yes," Merrick said, "because I cared." Thorne's face twisted. "That's not care." "It is," Merrick insisted. "You were about to tear down the entire unit. Command would have erased you. I tried to give you a clean end, a soldier's end, something honorable." "Honorable?" Elena spat. "Dropping a helicopter?" "That wasn't me," Merrick said. "That was them. I wanted it clean, quick, painless." Thorne shook his head. "You betrayed everything we stood for." "No," Merrick whispered. "I protected it." His eyes glistened. Actual tears. "Jack, I loved you like a brother. I still do. This was the only way to save you." Elena felt Thorne's heart break beside her. Merrick extended a hand. "Come home, Jack. I can still fix this." Thorne's breathing grew ragged. Elena whispered, "Jack, no." Merrick's voice softened to a plea. "Please, don't make me kill you." Thorne stepped forward. Elena grabbed his arm, hard. "Jack, if you go to him, we're both dead." He didn't move, didn't blink, torn between past and present. Merrick reached behind him slowly, not for a rifle, for a syringe, the same kind that took Thorne's memory. Thorne's breath caught. "Elena," he whispered, he was my friend." "I know," she said, voice steady, "and now he's your enemy." Merrick stepped closer. One more step. Another. "Jack," Merrick whispered, voice cracking, "don't make me do this." Thorne lifted his rifle at last, but he didn't aim at Merrick. He aimed past him, at the charges preset on the ridge wall. Only one man understood instantly. Merrick's eyes widened. "No, Jack, don't!" Thorne fired. The ridge exploded. The shock wave hurled all three of them sideways. The world dissolved into white. Elena hit the ground hard, tumbling through deep snow. Her rifle spun away. Pain tore through her ribs. She rolled until she collided with a boulder, gasping. "Thorne!" she shouted. "Jack!" Snow settled slowly. Smoke curled through the storm. Merrick lay sprawled halfway down the slope, coughing blood, legs pinned under fallen rock. He reached for something he couldn't touch. "Elena," he choked. "Help!" She didn't move. "Please," he whispered, "don't leave me." A voice answered behind her. Not her call. Thorne, alive, barely. He limped down the slope, face twisted in pain, rifle dragging behind him. Elena rose to help, but he waved her off. He approached Merrick slowly, each step heavy. Merrick looked up at him with desperate hope. Jack, thank God! Pull me out, we can still fix this. Thorne knelt. He took Merrick's hand. Merrick's eyes filled with relief. Then Thorne said softly, You were my brother, and you killed that. Merrick's expression shattered. No, Jack, please. Thorne squeezed his hand once. Goodbye. He stood, left him, walked back to Elena. No bullets, no revenge shot, just a final rejection. Elena watched Merrick sob into the snow as Thorne joined her. Are you okay? She asked. No, he said, but I will be. Voices shouted across the valley, operators regrouping. The explosion hadn't killed them all. Elena grabbed Thorne's arm. We need to move. Where? Extraction point, you said it yourself. He blinked. What? She pointed into the storm. When you shot the ridge, you triggered a secondary beacon. Your gear just pinged a friendly unit. Off book. Real U.S. forces. You sure? Positive. He sighed. Then let's finish this. They moved together, limping, battered, bleeding, toward the last rise before the extraction zone. Behind them, Merrick's cries faded under the storm. The final slope was brutal. Wind hammered them from the side, trying to tear them off the mountain. Elena's vision blurred at the edges. Thorne staggered but didn't fall. They reached a plateau marked by a single broken antenna, old, rusted, forgotten. But the beacon Thorne triggered blinked faintly beneath the snow. A low hum vibrated through the air. Rotors. Real ones. Not matte black, not silent, not assassins. A U.S. Army rescue bird punched through the storm, spotlight sweeping. Elena raised a flare. Thorne steadied her arm. The bird descended, skids crunching into the snow. Medics jumped out, rushing toward them. Elena's legs gave out. Thorne caught her and lowered her onto a stretcher. A medic leaned over her. Ma'am, stay with me, you're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign. Thorne sat beside her stretcher, wrapped in a blanket, blood drying on his face. His eyes were heavy but lucid. Elena, he said. She turned her head toward him. He reached for her hand. I remember, he whispered. What? That you saved me. From the moment you cut me out of that wreck. She squeezed his fingers weakly. Wasn't letting you go. He smiled through cracked lips. Good, because I'm not done yet. A medic shouted for clearance. The helicopter lifted off the mountain, rising into the storm. Elena's vision dimmed. Exhaustion washed over her. Thorne's hand stayed wrapped around hers, warm despite the freezing air. His voice faded, soft but certain. I remember you now, kid. The storm swallowed the mountain behind them. The hunt was over, but the war was just beginning.